All right, guys. So I meant to get to this earlier, but unfortunately I didn't. But Tucker Carlson has this new documentary series out about January 6th. And I guess an alternative version of what happened that day, right? Maybe that's the best way I can describe it, right? I have not watched it. It just came out yesterday. I am not in a position to actually make a judgment about the documentary because I have not seen it. I haven't even seen a whole scene from it to even make a judgment about anything in it, right? But apparently this concept is foreign to the mainstream media as they absolutely go bananas over the trailer for Tucker Carlson's documentary. I mean, guys, the reactions from the mainstream media, like they flipped out over this just from the trailer, right? They haven't even actually watched the documentary. It just came out yesterday. Now, this highlight film of the leftists freaking out literally all happened before the actual documentary came out. And I just want you guys to watch how outraged these people are. It's almost at the point where it's literally comical. Take a look.
Tucker Carlson has created a terrorist recruitment video.
Fox TV branching into fantasy programming. A new series from Tucker Carlson traffics in conspiracy theories surrounding the insurrection on January 6th.
Tucker Carlson attempting to rewrite history around the January 6th insurrection.
Tucker Carlson makes a tribute video to the terrorists.
Tucker Carlson is hitting a new low, completely rewriting the history of the Capitol insurrection in a way that defies belief.
Tuckums previewed a documentary that goes beyond the usual Daughters of the Confederacy rewrite of the January 6th insurrection to shameless lying and conspiracy mongering. Tucker Carlson is leaning way in to disinformation regarding January 6th. And it's kind of terrifying because what he's putting out there is just going to lead to more violence.
It might be Tucker Carlson's most dangerous moment yet. Fox News' right-wing host is taking his assault on democracy to terrifying new heights in a brand new series promising to tell the truth, he says, about January 6th. It actually appears to be nothing but a war on the truth.
It's filled with lies about what led to the riot and the prosecution of the rioters, and even includes a blatantly false assertion that the Capitol riot was a, quote, false flag operation. False flag. Anytime you don't like what your people did, you claim there was a false flag.
Tucker is peddling some deeply dangerous propaganda that the insurrection was actually a false flag operation.
What Carlson is doing is unforgivable and really just horrible. I want to say criminal, but technically that's not true, although maybe it should be.
Tucker Carlson is inciting violence. Isn't this just an incitement to another January 6th? Is that what Tucker Carlson wants?
What Tucker Carlson is doing is going against the American people. The Murdoch family, which controls Fox, is cashing in as American democracy is being set ablaze.
Why does Rupert Murdoch want to destroy America?
The Murdochs and Tucker Carlson, their primetime pyromaniac, appear to be hell-bent on dragging this country into a civil war.
Shout out to Grabian, bro. These clips are so clutch. But, you know, isn't this the exact same thing that the left-wing media accuses Fox News of doing? Right? Like, literally fear-mongering, right? You're fear-mongering over a documentary that you have not seen. You don't know what the documentary is really about or what it's saying or what argument it's actually making unless you actually had a chance to watch the documentary. Now, again, most of these highlights come from last week when the trailer came out. Now, from the trailer, right, I watched the trailer, and what I took away from it is that, okay, Tucker Carlson is going to, I don't know, give his own narrative of what he believes or, you know, or some alternative theories about what happened that day. But it seems like the main kind of thesis of the documentary is that, you know, the left is labeling people on the right as domestic terrorists, right? That the war on terror overseas has now shifted to the United States. And, you know, the thing is that what allowed Tucker Carlson to actually make this claim, right? It's not like he could just pull this claim out of thin air, right? Like, let's take out the whole January 6th thing. Let's forget about that, right? I think that's really irrelevant to the overall point here. Where would Tucker Carlson get the material to theorize that the left is trying to categorize people on the right and smear people by their race as well as domestic terrorists and white nationalists?
We have a domestic terrorism challenge.
The most dangerous domestic terror threat facing America today comes from the forces that attacked our government on January 6th.
And the violent, deadly insurrection on the Capitol 9 months ago, it was about white supremacy, in my view.
In the FBI's view, the top domestic violent extremist threat comes from racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocated for the superiority of the white race.
Terrorism from white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland today. Not ISIS, not Al-Qaeda, white supremacists.
Let's stop pretending that the threat of Antifa is equivalent
to the white supremacist threat.
We know now we must confront and defeat political extremism, white supremacy.
The biggest threat to Americans is not jihadists overseas. It's homegrown domestic terrorists inspired by white supremacists.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is domestic violent extremism.
Domestic terrorism is our number one threat.
Domestic terrorism has been steadily increasing, and that threat needs to be addressed.
Domestic terrorist groups are really starting to surge in this country. It's a big concern.
We know that domestic terrorism is a grave threat, but what can we do to stop it?
What we need is to take the laws we already have and apply them to white people.
We can go after international terrorists. Why can't we do it at home?
Today, we're mostly looking at our neighbors rather than a Osama bin Laden that's far off in Afghanistan.
Bin Laden and co. didn't have supporters and sympathizers among the House Republican caucus.
The Republican Party is basically a domestic terrorist cell at this point, and they should be treated as such. There are elements of the GOP that are starting to look like the jihadists. Domestic terrorists vote and international terrorists don't.
MAGA and the domestic terror threat is much more worrisome than any foreign threat.
It is domestic white terror that is the greatest threat to our way of life.
Right-wing domestic violent extremism is the single greatest threat facing this country.
There is a serious right-wing domestic terrorism problem in this country.
President Trump is gone, right? And the extremists are not. You're either with them or with us.
You have a Republican Party that sits mute while domestic terrorists plot the next overthrow of the U.S. government.
I don't think we've improved much since the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yeah, so again, where do you think Tucker Carlson got his material from, right? Like, if your issue is with what Tucker Carlson's thesis is, where do you think he got it from, right? It seems to me like he got it from you guys, right? He got it from the left-wing liberal media because you guys have spent so much time telling your audience that people on the right and people that happen to be white as well are domestic terror threats, right? That's what you've done. I mean, guys, it's gotten so silly that you don't even have to be white for them to do this, right? They call Candace Owens a white nationalist or a white supremacist, and she's black. Again, they've gotten so silly with this, right? Because that's what it's just silly. They've gotten so silly with this that, again, if you have conservative views, regardless of your race, they might label you a white nationalist or a white supremacist, and you don't even have to be white. You don't even have to be white. Again, that's how silly and idiotic the rhetoric has gotten from the left in regards to this stuff. And you fear-mongered, right? And now you want to cry foul because Tucker Carlson is using your fear-mongering and coming up with his own theories, right? And I'm not even endorsing anything he's saying because I have not seen the documentary. I haven't even seen a scene from the documentary to make a judgment based off of a scene. So I have no idea what's in it. I have no idea what the argument that he's making, right? So again, I'm not even endorsing anything that the man is saying because I simply don't know. And I've also said 1,000 times about how I don't think what happened on January 6th was a good thing, right? I've denounced the violence, the political violence in this country, whether that's on the right or the left, right? But I just find it hilarious how the mainstream media wants to act so mad about this. But you should have thought about that before you use charged, reckless rhetoric like that when you're literally trying to turn the American people against each other. These people go out here and they divide America every single day, right? Labeling people as white nationalists, white supremacists, blah, blah, blah. They do it every single day. And then they get mad and want to boo-hoo, whine, and cry when somebody says, hey, this is what the left-wing media is saying about you. When I mean, I don't understand. They blow my mind in regards to the cognitive dissonance. They take no responsibility for their charged rhetoric, but every time you look, they're calling to pull the plug on Fox News or Tucker Carlson. But they come out here every single day and spew hateful, divisive rhetoric, right? Exaggerations, and they fearmonger. But they accuse Fox News of doing that. Oh, but Fox News, they just fearmonger. Nobody else fearmongers except Fox News. Well, I just showed you a whole highlight clip of fearmongering. Fearmongering. Also on top of that, allegedly, the documentary is so dangerous for people to watch that you guys decided to cover it before the documentary came out, basically giving more hype to it, giving more press to it, right? Letting more people know that this documentary exists. Yeah, real smart idea. Smart idea. Give press and attention to a documentary that you're telling people that it's so bad they shouldn't see it, right? As if that's not going to motivate people to be like, you know what, maybe I should go watch this. I guarantee you, most people would not have heard about this documentary had the mainstream liberal media not thrown an outrage fest over it. Most people wouldn't even heard about it. Again, these people they're clowns. They're clowns. They want to cry foul over things that they said, right? things they said. So if you got a problem with it, I don't know, maybe you should stop calling your fellow Americans domestic terrorists and comparing them to terrorist threats overseas. Maybe that will solve the problem, right? Maybe that will iron out the issue. Maybe Tucker Carlson wouldn't have any material to use to come up with these theories if you guys stop using hateful, reckless rhetoric. Also, here's another crazy idea. If Tucker Carlson is saying anything in the documentary that's objectively false, that's not a fact, how about you just come out with your own rebuttal? Right? Just rebut what the man is saying in the documentary. That way you can have open debate, right? Have an open debate about it. Educate your viewers about the so-called disinformation. What is it in the documentary that's incorrect? Crazy idea. Crazy idea. But anyways, it's hilarious to me how the left-wing media is spewing fake outrage over this documentary, right? As if free speech doesn't exist in this country, right? People are calling for the thing to be pulled, that it shouldn't be allowed, right? Again, these are the same people who supported riots and protests all last year, right? Supported it, okay, openly. But they want to lecture people about what is a threat of violence in this country, right? That's what they want to do. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.